this is an exciting time, and I think we have some pretty exciting prospects ahead. And, things like this partnership with DJI just embody that growth.
You're listening to the Drone Radio Show podcast, the show about drones and the people who use them for business, fun, and research. Hosted by Randy Goers.
Hello, everyone. This is Randy Goers, and welcome to the Drone Radio Show podcast, episode 66. Have you been wondering how the recent collaboration between Measure and DJI will benefit commercial drone operators? A few months ago, Measure, a U.S. commercial drone operator, and DJI, a leading manufacturer of unmanned aerial vehicles, announced a partnership to pair UAV technology with operational expertise to support commercial enterprise customers. Dave Bowen is the managing director of special projects for Measure and leads innovative programs like the Measure-DJI joint venture. He's here to talk about the partnership, how it works, and the benefits to commercial drone operators. He'll also give us an update on what's happening at Measure, especially the new program to award Measure franchises to qualified applicants. A lot of great info. So let's pick up the interview where I asked Dave to introduce himself.
I'm Dave Bowen. I'm the managing director of special projects at Measure. So in this capacity, I essentially run, a number of the kind of operational projects that we have in place that don't really fall into traditional categories that we already have assigned verticals for. So, some of this is subjects as simple as news gathering, also doing some experimentation with different technologies for various companies. And I'm also essentially in charge of running the relationship with DJI insofar as kind of managing the sort of day-to-day relationship with the company, and then also projects, again, that are passed to us through DJI that don't fall into traditional categories like, say, agriculture or infrastructure inspection.
Somewhere about 3 weeks ago, I think there was a press release issued about the collaboration between Measure and DJI and what it might mean to the commercial industry. So could you talk about that partnership? What is that partnership all about?
This partnership is one that really benefits both companies tremendously. DJI, of course, is the leading commercial drone manufacturer in the world right now, and Measure is the leading commercial drone services provider in the United States. So, it really allows us to kind of marry our individual expertises to build out the commercial drone market in the United States. So for projects that Measure takes on that were sort of pursued with the help of DJI, we will use exclusively DJI products. And, we also will promote DJI products for the applications that they're best fit for. And, already we've begun using DJI equipment to do things like news gathering. We've started doing some inspection of photovoltaic panels with their new thermal camera, and also used equipment for insurance purposes as well.
From an organization standpoint, is it bringing together teams from Measure and DJI working together, or is it just sort of based on projects that you have in common?
It just got started, and for the time being, we're sort of working on individual projects. But as this relationship develops, I think you'll see it become increasingly formalized. And not only will we be the sort of go-to commercial operator for DJI in the United States, but we'll also be helping DJI build out its technological roadmap. So we'll be testing certain DJI equipment. We'll be helping them by, giving our feedback on, sort of best practices in commercial operation and, the kind of technological improvements that we need to help get the job done better from our side. So, we'll be increasingly working in close collaboration with both, their business development team, but also their engineers.
Do you know how the partnership actually came to be? Who had the idea and where did it come from?
Both companies kind of obviously recognized each other as big players in the space. And we've been talking for quite a few months, and it just seemed like a natural fit. So, the conversations were ongoing, and then we found a way to turn this partnership into a formal relationship.
Which industries do you think are going to benefit most from the partnership?
Well, I think DJI products are really exceptional in filmmaking. So, some of the news gathering applications that, Measure performs, I think will benefit tremendously from our services as well as, the incremental improvements in DJI technology. But really, I think the applications are quite expansive. I mean, already, like I mentioned, we're using DJI products for insurance, claims assessment. We're using them for infrastructure inspection, agricultural applications, energy work. I mean, the list really goes on.
I know the partnership is new, but is there an example that it's actually starting to be in place?
Sure. So just recently, we've been flying for a couple of different news agencies. Measure flew at the Republican National Convention for 2 major news agencies and captured footage of the Quicken Loans Arena. And that was put on national broadcast. And that was using a DJI Inspire Pro fitted with a X5 camera.
How does the business change now that you have a partnership with DJI versus the way you would approach a contract before the partnership?
In certain cases, DJI will refer a potential customer that has come up to DJI and they say, listen, I love your products, but, we don't actually want to fly these ourselves. However, we love, the data and imagery that comes off of them. Can you put us in touch with someone who can fly it? In that case, they would turn to us and we would go and actually perform the operation. However, if we're approaching a customer ourselves, we love DJI equipment and, we think it's great for a variety of different applications, but we're still platform agnostic and we'll be, taking into account the individual requirements of that customer and still will select whatever platform, whatever aircraft we think fits that application best.
Do you have the opportunity that if somebody were to come to you and say, here's the job I want, and when you look at it, you're able to say, well, we need a drone that can do these 5 things, but there isn't a drone out there, but you now have a partner that can say, well, maybe we can program it or we can provide some functionality that the others weren't typically able to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think, having this partnership formalized definitely gives us a swifter avenue for providing feedback and even, potentially fulfilling some specific requests from a aircraft engineering or a sensor engineering standpoint. I think we still had that ability in the past, and we've worked with drone manufacturers, of whom we use their equipment pretty closely and have asked for certain modifications and they've given those back. But, I think with this partnership more formalized, that really, kind of streamlines that process.
Will the users see anything differently, do you think, from their perspective?
Well, I think it depends on which, perspective you sort of approach it from. I think for existing Measure customers, you're not going to see a huge change immediately. We're still sort of delivering the best quality data deliverable that we can. But I think over time, you'll see some changes as, the feedback that we give to DJI as a commercial operator, begins to be implemented in changes to the equipment and sensors that are attached to the drones. However, I think if you were someone who's using maybe a DJI equipment and hadn't really figured out how to make use of it as best as you would like and decided that you want to work with a commercial operator, then I think there's going to be a big change, of course, because you'll be able to turn to Measure and, we can capture the data that's required for that customer.
Has it been decided how the partnership will be rolled out over the next several months?
Yeah, we've sketched out a brief or a sort of, high-level schedule for how things will work. Initially, we're going to pursue certain projects together. And as work comes through DJI, that will be passed along to us. And that, will sometimes occur on a kind of ad hoc basis. However, we also have a certain schedule to help test out DJI equipment. So at some point in the near future, for example, we'll be testing out the new Agras drone, which is made specifically for agricultural input application. And this is something I think it's being tested right now in China and possibly Korea, but we'll be one of the first to be testing that in the United States before it goes on sale. So that's something that will be done in the near term, and we'll be doing that at our dedicated agricultural testing facility in Kendrick, Idaho, which is where our VP of Agriculture, Robert Blair, is based.
Is it fair to say that one of the benefits to DJI that they're able to tap into large industry markets that maybe they were not able to get in before?
Yeah, absolutely. I think DJI has been a leader in consumer and prosumer grade equipment, but I think they're clearly showing that they're interested in breaking into the broader commercial market. And our view is that DJI equipment already is a very high standard of quality that can perform a number of commercial applications. And I think in partnership with Measure, we can help them to improve upon their technology for certain applications that perhaps a DJI drone is not suited for right now. And I think, over time, that's going to open up a lot more sort of potential sources of revenue for DJI, both directly and indirectly through Measure.
And what about the benefits to Measure in this partnership?
There's several benefits. I mean, for one, as we mentioned before, it gives us a sort of direct line of feedback to, a commercial drone company that we know is going to be around for a while. And there's many hundreds of manufacturers in the market right now, but I think already you're starting to see consolidation within the sort of drone manufacturer marketplace. So knowing that we can work with a company that has heft, has a great deal of engineering talent, and it also has the ability to produce drones at scale, and also producing drones that are cost effective is really important for us. So having that relationship in place, as Measure itself scales up its operations both nationwide and across North America, I think will really be a benefit.
Is there anything about the partnership that I hadn't asked about or something we should talk about?
No, I think we covered it pretty well.
Let's turn to the impact of Part 107. Or before we get into that, can you bring me a little bit of an update on where Measure is today and since the last time we talked, which was about 6 or 7 months ago when Measure was just starting to really penetrate some of the larger markets?
Yeah, no, it's been a great half a year for Measure. We've grown quite extensively. I think we're up to about 25 employees at our headquarters in Washington, D.C., and then we have a number of pilot teams throughout the U.S. We also just announced a new initiative for franchising, and that was in late March. So this is basically our goal to maintain a certain standard of quality while also being able to rapidly scale across the United States so that we're able to serve the large commercial enterprise customers that we do who, have infrastructure across the U.S. So, we need to scale quickly, and franchising is the best option for that for us. So we're putting that into place, and we've also made a bunch of strategic hires. I think since we last spoke, we've hired VPs to run our infrastructure and agriculture divisions. We have put in a sort of formal data engineering and drone engineering departments. I think we're really gearing up, and already we have large accounts in a number of different industries. I mean, we're working in agriculture, energy, insurance, vertical infrastructure, telecommunications, sort of inventory management and logistics, and as well as news gathering. It's been an exciting few months, and we're growing. We're continuing to grow, and looking forward to a great rest of the year.
How does Part 107 fit into Measure's plans as you see it?
I think Part 107 is nothing but good news for Measure. It really opens up a lot of new areas in which we can fly, and some new use cases as well. But I think, there's a few significant changes that really will allow us to expand our operations across the U.S. One of those is the removal of the 500-foot non-participant barrier around operations that excluded us from doing a lot of work in residential and urban areas. And, for example, if you take the telecommunications industry, we're doing cell tower inspections. A lot of those cell towers, in fact, most cell towers are concentrated in densely populated areas. So before, those towers were all but inaccessible for us. And now that Part 107 is going into effect, that really expands the scope of what we're able to do. Furthermore, the removal of the need to apply for a COA to fly in controlled airspace is also going to be a huge deal for us. If we can just coordinate with the local air traffic control tower, that should speed up our pace of operations immensely. And, for doing things like news gathering, that could also be really important because, as you know, it's all about timeliness.
That should also help in your plan for franchising as well, shouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting because a lot of the questions that we get is that, are you nervous now that 107 has come into effect that, there's going to be a flood of sort of budget operators who maybe don't have the same level of expertise and experience that Measure does. But, since now that the requirement to have a pilot's license has been removed, they're able to enter the market and kind of undercut some of our business. But honestly, we're not really concerned about that at all because, the type of customer that we're serving typically requires operations that are done at a very sort of precise, high level of quality. And they also tend to be very risk averse companies who, don't want just anybody, getting behind the controls of a, flying aerial vehicle close to sensitive infrastructure. But, our franchisees will continue to go through our sort of specific training programs, both on individual platforms and for specific applications, be it telecoms or news gathering or agriculture. I think we're not going to require that franchisees continue to hire only pilots who have a manned pilot's license. But, I think it perhaps will broaden the pool of applicants, potential franchisees, and the employees that they themselves can hire.
Does Measure have some sort of internal expectation about the pilot's level of experience? Will you have some sort of internal process to make sure that everybody has the equal qualifications?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So, we'll still be hiring only people who have experience flying unmanned aerial vehicles or RC aircraft if they don't have a manned pilot's license. And, we'll still be, all of our pilots are vetted by our chief pilot and director of flight operations. And, we make sure that they have a certain level of maturity, a certain level of understanding of airspace and, understand how to follow safety protocols and take directions. And then, of course, once they're hired, they all go through our sort of standardized training program. And, the pilots that we hire, also differ. Backgrounds may differ based on what sort of applications we'll put them on. So, there's some operations that may not require as much understanding of airspace, for example, as others that may be a little more complicated. So, we'll continue to hire experienced manned pilots to run our more complex applications. And, we also really emphasize the hiring of veterans too. We have a lot of, veterans coming out of the military who have a ton of experience both in manned and unmanned aviation. And both of our chief pilot and director of flight operation are vets. And, we really appreciate that culture of safety and accountability and we'll continue to make hires of people who fit that description.
And just so people can gain a good sense of what Measure does, your primary clients and primary business are really large commercial entities or industrial clients. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's true. Our typical client is a Fortune 500 company. There's some exceptions for that. Agriculture is a little bit different, where we're serving a kind of mix of agribusiness, insurance companies, co-ops, and then also individual farmers. But within the other sort of industries that we serve, we're typically going after large commercial enterprises. But this is one of the reasons that actually the franchising system makes so much sense for both the franchisees and for Measure as the franchisor, because the franchisees will get access to these national accounts that we've developed with these large customers who it'd be pretty difficult for a franchisee to approach on their own. While Measure also benefits from franchisees' business development in a local area. So we're not going after smaller scale local work right now. But with a franchise system, then I think both sides can benefit from the sort of collective business development work that's going on both at the local and the national level.
How far away do you think you are from having a franchise system in place?
Without sort of giving too much away, we're preparing to announce our first franchisee very soon. And we're hoping to have several signed up by the end of the year. And I think in the next 2 years, we're hoping to have about 10 or 15 franchisees onboarded. And then, the goal ultimately is to have one in every single state.
Somebody was thinking that franchise would be a great opportunity to look into. How do they find out if it's for them?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of information on Measure's website. That's www.measure.aero, AERO. And, that there's a packet of information up there, as well as contact information for who they can talk to if they're interested in pursuing that opportunity.
Are you able to give me sort of like the highlights of what a franchise might see as some of the requirements of them?
The ideal franchisee is going to have both experience in aviation or unmanned aviation or both, and also, a certain amount of business expertise. I mean, we're looking for, someone who will essentially be able to run a profitable, safety-focused, independent business at a local level. So, the ideal candidate is one who embodies all of those traits. But, if there's also room for, kind of partnerships coming into this, you could sort of marry the talents of a business person with an aviator. There's a lot of different approaches, but, typically this sort of skill set that we're looking at as the franchisor.
And what other things do you think Part 107 is going to bring to the overall commercial drone marketplace?
I think it really is gonna expand the number of drone businesses that you see across the country. Now, I said before that I don't think Part 107 is really a risk for Measure because we're targeting larger businesses with more complex applications. But I think you're going to see a lot more local businesses doing things like wedding photography, real estate photography, things like that. I think you're really going to see an explosion of those businesses, and I think also you're going to see more operations across the board for commercial purposes. Like I mentioned, I think this is really going to open the door for us to operate in a lot of places that were previously sort of no-go zones. So I think with 107 going into effect, the benefits will be visible to the broader public through such things as using drones and sort of public safety applications. I think people will also see the improvements that drones can bring in such areas as infrastructure inspection. So there's thousands of bridges, for example, across the U.S. that are in need of inspection, and it's quite expensive to do that right now. I think we've been talking to several departments of transportation across the U.S. who are really keenly interested in this technology. And, I think that could allow for increased inspection of at-risk infrastructure, which, brings really tangible public safety improvements. So I think, there'll be, I think and I hope that public will really embrace commercial drones in a stronger way, and you'll definitely see more operations occurring.
That's cool. I ran across a traffic engineering firm here in Florida that one of the applications they were using a drone for was to help in traffic analysis. And what they would do is send a drone up every half hour and have it take a picture of a corridor that they were studying. And they would use that to augment their traffic counts and be able to show to a community, here's what 1,000 cars per hour look like.
I think there's so many novel applications that are just like waiting to be developed. Especially with people being able to sort of fly more easily, I think you're going to see a lot of tinkering and, sort of novel applications that are developed by both companies and then also sort of individuals going forward. So it's going to be really exciting. And I mean, there's just every day I'm kind of astounded by how many new, new applications for this technology there are. And I think 107 will accelerate that.
How does somebody get involved with Measure's work? How do they find out if there's an opportunity for them to join the company?
I think there's a couple different ways to get involved with Measure. So we continue to have teams of pilots who are working directly for Measure headquarters, and then also there's the opportunity to buy into the franchise system. So we're still looking for great pilots to build out the network of pilots that we have working for us directly. But over the coming months and years, we're going to increasingly shift that work onto our franchisees. But there's opportunities in both, and I would encourage anyone who's interested to reach out to us directly, and we can explain the benefits of joining the franchise system, and that may be the right fit for some people, or potentially coming on board as a pilot working for us directly. Again, we're looking for people who have experience in aviation or unmanned aviation. Really can embrace our corporate mantra, which is safe, legal, and insured. And this is an exciting time, and I think we have some pretty exciting prospects ahead. And things like this partnership with DJI just embody that growth.
Any special announcements or anything that we should be looking for over the next 60 days?
I think we're going to have some more announcements about various strategic partnerships coming up in the next 60 days. We've also been onboarding some new customers, which are pretty significant, and hopefully we'll be able to announce who they are in the coming days as well. Unfortunately, a lot of our customers request confidentiality. But I think increasingly, especially after 107 goes into effect, we may be able to discuss a little more openly, the projects that we've been working on, which I think are pretty exciting.
That's it for episode 66 of the Drone Radio Show. I hope you enjoyed hearing from Dave Bowen and learning about the Measure-DJI partnership and the franchise opportunities at Measure. I want to thank Dave for taking the time to talk about these exciting programs. If you want more information about Measure's programs or want to connect with Dave, check out their website at measure.aero. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a positive review and a comment on iTunes. It really does help. And I hope you'll listen to more episodes of the Drone Radio Show podcast to hear how others are using drones for business, fun, and research. For the Drone Radio Show, I'm Randy Gores.
This has been the Drone Radio Show podcast. More information on today's show can be found on our website at www.droneradioshow.com. If you're using drone technology for business, fun, or research and would like to share your experience on the show, please visit our website and fill out a guest appearance application. And don't forget to follow us on your favorite social media channels.